What's going on, guys? Alex here at Elevated Lifestyle Lab here for episode 6. I got my co-host George Riccitelli back in the building. How we doing, George?
Doing good.
Good. We got a special guest here today. It's one of my close friends. I've known him for several years now. I actually bought my current business from him, my detailing business. He's a chiropractor up in the Stuart, Florida area, and he's been a great friend, a mentor, and he's one of the guys that you definitely want to have surrounding you just for good energy, good vibes, and a motivational person. So without further ado, Dr. Steve Zanfini. How you doing, brother?
How you doing, buddy? Thank you.
Good, man. I've been excited. You were like the first person almost I reached out to when I started this podcast because over the last few years, we've just, we've both been on kind of a journey, and you've been learning so much. I've been learning so much, and we'd never have enough time to talk about things. So I'm super excited to bring you in, man, talk about and pick your brain.
Heck yeah, man.
So I guess let's start off first. Just tell us a little bit about your practice up in Stuart and how long you've been doing chiropractic and what got you into it.
So we've had kind of the ambition to be a chiropractor since I was 17. I was a victim of a car accident. Being a baseball player at Martin County High School, I couldn't even pitch. I was supposed to go to college. Got numbness and tingling going down your hand, and you can't get rid of it. So I went to my chiropractor, and it was the end of it. So I was able to go to college, and it kind of influenced me that, there's an outside box into health. You don't always need medication. You don't always need surgery to get better. There's other ways of rehab, and chiropractic just totally changed my life. So it's definitely been something I've wanted to do since I was about 17. So we're on quite a long journey here of getting it all done.
Yeah, I was curious what actually got you into chiropractic, but that's
being an athlete, I just don't understand how athletes don't have a chiropractor if they are playing sports. It keeps your mobility good.
Well, it's funny, you talk with people and they're like, no, I don't need to go to a chiropractor. Well, most likely they're not doing any kind of thing athletic, and you talk to most athletes, they're like, yeah, I got to get
A lot of times now you're seeing a lot of the pro athletes that do or are acknowledging the chiropractic practice and diving into it, and they're seeing huge benefits out of it.
Oh yeah, the best in the world all have chiropractors. We take 100 chiropractors when we go everywhere to the Olympics, no matter where it is. Michael Phelps, LeBron James, everybody has their guy, or their girl, and when you get comfortable with your chiropractor, it's just nothing different than what like Tom Brady does when he wins a Super Bowl. He takes a picture with his chiropractor and the next day and says, if it wasn't for this guy, I wouldn't be able to play.
Yeah, man.
So I mean, the best in the world get adjusted. It's just.
Well, I think the difference is now is you kind of, we've talked about it before, is it's not like your old school traditional chiropractic where it's just you go in and get popped and you leave. It's a whole lifestyle that you kind of encompass, especially when I talk to you. It's, nutrition, it's stress levels, it's who you have surrounding you in your daily life. Like it's really fascinating, and I think that's why one reason it's growing so fast, because you're covering, you're touching on everything.
Yeah, it's a paradigm. There's a lot of aspects how to be healthy and to play optimal. You can't just put 2 boxes in there out of the 6. You have to really understand what is going on as a whole and put it all together. It's a big it's a big treasure, so it's good.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I never really knew the benefits. I never actually went to a chiropractor until I met you. And then when once you adjusted me, I've always came back to you for the same issue. My hips just get knocked out, and I mean it's unbelievable the relief that I get when I come and see you and you click it back in place. I mean that's when it kind of started my journey of diving into more of the body, the holistic aspect, and then nutrition on top of that. But just building up a strong muscle foundation to surround. Like my lower back was originally the issue, and just working out, getting the lower back stronger, and casual adjustments to get it popped back in place. I mean, it's super important. And then every time I go in for our little settings, you try to show me the diagram of what's happening, and you show, and it's just super fascinating to me, man. Like the whole alignment of the body, and then you get into the neck, and then all the different nerves. You have a sore throat, or if you have a clogged nose, and you go in and you start feeling behind my ear, and it's wild, dude. You make these adjustments. It's just super cool that the instant relief that you get from that. It's awesome.
It's definitely different.
Do you see a lot of is a majority of your people that kind of bring you in like lower back pain, the hips out of place, that type of thing?
We used to be more of like a pain type of clinic here in Stuart, but now we've become more neuro-based, more brain type of balanced issues, vertigo, ADD, ADHD, a lot of children, lots and lots of children. We're getting them all balanced up and showing them what they could potentially be.
Yeah, I was amazed to see even in the last few years that like a lot of chiropractors, they work on kids and even infants. And I was speaking with somebody not too long ago, and they were telling me like how when a baby's born, how out of line their spine is, and how it's imperative that they get adjusted to be to lead that healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, birth trauma is very traumatic. I mean, think about it. It's there's a lot of instances that things happen and the body gets a little bit jammed up, and emergency C-sections. But they say there's a lot going on, and to align a baby, I mean, you can really help a baby out.
Yeah.
It's very gentle stuff. It's not what people really think it is. There's no popping. There's nothing like that in babies. It's all just pressure points and clearing it. But yeah,
you do that a lot, right? I see that a lot on your social.
Yeah,
you have babies in there a lot.
Yeah, we see a lot of babies.
Yeah.
Babies, we get them to sleep. We get them from colic. We get them from acid reflux to constipation. There's all these little reflex tricks that you can do on the baby, and
Wow.
it could totally change that baby's life. We've done miracles after miracles on babies just because, sometimes medicine is just not the way to fix something.
Sure.
There might be something really going on in the spine. The spine is where you have to really look. So, yeah, it gets jammed up and you start getting symptoms, But yeah, you could clear it out.
I've even seen where people bring their pets to get adjusted. Their dogs.
I have some friends that do that. But yeah, we
There was a
concept,
doctor here in Jupiter that used to do that.
Yeah,
makes sense.
I went to see him years ago, and they had brought their dogs in.
Yep.
They had labs, or golden retrievers and labs, and he adjusted their spines, and he said it's supposed to stop with their allergies and stuff like that.
It does work, yeah. I mean, I have a friend that does it, and she swears by it.
Really?
I mean, if just like us that needs to get
Makes
adjusted,
sense,
why
yeah.
not them?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah. It's been around for a while, so
Yeah.
it's another certification.
Yeah, right.
Another 100 hours.
Well, another topic that we started talking about a few years ago that I really dove headfirst into was really the gut-brain connection, the microbiome, really just everything in your belly. And I know that you didn't realize it back then when you were younger until later, but a lot of the issues you had when you were growing up that you had turned out to be really a microbiome issue. You just out of balance, you had a leaky gut. Let's kind of dive into that. Maybe explain like what the microbiome is. It kind of surrounds your gut, all the immune cells around there, all that.
I mean,
good
that's
stuff.
what really got me into this whole thing with the children was understanding their gut situation, because most likely these children are sick these days because of some kind of, over antibiotic usage, or, I mean, think about what would get them sick to begin with, So one antibiotic after another, but no probiotics to reflourish it. So, one is always taking away, the antibiotic is always ripping apart the good and the bad, but you never put anything back in, you're never going to have a balanced microbiome. Probiotics are the number one choice of any nutrition that I recommend over all nutritions. And you ask any doctor, they would probably say the same thing, because it is that important to keep those good flora in there to protect everything.
Like in terms of a probiotic, do you recommend like a natural type or like a pill based or?
Definitely, it's got to be supplemental. We don't eat enough foods that are fermented these days. There's not enough. I mean, unless you're eating like a
kimchi and
lots of kombuchas. But the reality is that you're still not getting those species and strains that you're trying to get to flourish. The idea is to have more differential stuff. Mm-hmm. You want varieties of species and strains. You want to take the same one over and over. So one thing I teach my patients is we'll skip them. So we'll do like 2 months of one probiotic, then we'll do 2 months of the next one, and then 2 months of another one, and we keep putting varieties of species and strains in. That's what's going to protect you. If you keep putting the same thing in, you're only going to be protecting you from a couple different species and strains of bacteria probably. But if you have more of an army, more of a military of different varieties in there, you're going to be better off when it comes to flu season. I mean, I haven't been to a doctor in 12 years. For any kind of antibiotic or anything, and all I do is just take general nutrition. Like, it's not really miracle science here. It's just take your probiotics, take some good vitamins, and then you're going to be good.
It's wild because I never really saw how much antibiotics are really kind of overprescribed until I had kids, until my wife was going through pregnancy, because she would get some type of infection, or the kids, and they're just writing antibiotics. If that one didn't work, amoxicillin didn't work, this one's going to work. And then after hearing you kind of talk about it on your blog a little bit, and then hearing more information about that, how you're not replacing it with anything positive afterwards, you're just ripping away your gut, which leads to leaky gut and all other kinds of symptoms. It's wild.
Well, the issue is, when you're born with a leaky gut. It takes time to get that gut to seal up to make an immune system. It takes years to be starting it. So, when you're born with a leaky gut and then you get prescribed antibiotics after antibiotics after antibiotics, all you're doing is just making the gut leakier. The gut's never healing. So then that turns into ear infections, and kids, you get around age 4 or 5, they should be building an immune system, but they're not. They can't because there's nothing being put back in. Mother's milk is what actually seals the gut up at this for this baby for the first year. That's why breastfeeding is super, super important. You don't want to put anything in the baby other than mama's milk until they're old enough to start taking like soft foods, vitamins and minerals on another basis.
No, maybe we could take like just a step back and explain like kind of what leaky gut is. Like you hear leaky gut as like kind of a trendy term right now. Like on all over the internet, any type of diet site you go to look up or anything like that. But maybe just like tell a little bit about what leaky gut is.
So you're born with a leaky gut. A leaky gut is like a holy gut. The junctions where you're supposed to be absorbing nutrients are wide open. There's nothing really established yet in the gut from a very young age. From until about the baby's 1 to 2 years old, then that's when the gut starts to get filled in, starts to get its junctions tight, which means it's not leaking into the bloodstream.
It's like a membrane around it, right?
So think of the gut as like you eat something, and if your junctions are open, it leaks into your bloodstream. That's why you got to be really careful what you give a baby at such a young age, because the baby is born with a leaky gut. The baby has to breastfeed for about a year to get that gut to start to seal up. It's really important to supplement vitamin D3. That keeps the immune system up while the baby's creating a brand new gut, essentially. Then, if you got the baby on probiotics, it's going to start to tighten those junctions naturally. That's what probiotics do. They keep the gut from leaking. They keep everything nice and tight and everything protected. And as the baby starts to produce more flora, the younger you can put the baby on probiotics, the better off your baby's going to be to getting an immune system established quicker. The baby's born in the right brain for the first, couple years of life. So when the baby switches the brain pattern over to the left hemisphere now, then that's when the immune system starts to get to established. If the immune system starts to naturally kick on, the baby's going to be healthy. But if the baby's been hit with a lot of antibiotic usage and it's got still a leaky gut, then we're going to have problems. The baby needs to be on some kind of formula that has a colostrum base in it, some PRP formula, polyrich peptides. Those are what seal that gut up tight, keeps it nice and tight. You don't want it leaking into the bloodstream, because then if you get off your diet and you give your baby any kind of gluten, cow's milk especially, if it leaks into the bloodstream, it's going to create a problem. It's going to create an antibody response. You're going to get some kind of autoimmune condition. So when people refer to what is autoimmune condition, an autoimmune condition is a leaky gut. It's something that's going out of the gut, leaking into the bloodstream and creating a response. And then it could be neurological. It could go to the thyroid. It could be Hashimoto's. I mean, it could go to the skin. It could be lupus. It could be a lot of different reasons. But if you keep those junctions nice and tight and protect them, you're not going to have to worry about autoimmune conditions. Again, you have to really watch what you eat. Gluten is a big one. Dairy is a big one.
Processed
Grain
foods
is a big one. And then all the chemicals. The chemicals leak out into the bloodstream. If they go to the bloodstream, they're going to go to the brain.
So if a mother wasn't breastfeeding and they were using formula, for example, does the formula have the same? I know it's not as good as breast milk, but does it have the same type of bodies within it that help to create that gut?
It's going to give the baby the nutrients it needs to survive, but it's not really helping the gut get healed, essentially. Naturally, the baby is going to heal, but it's going to be a slower process. There's not going to be the nutrients that the baby really, really needs in that colostrum in that breast milk. You have to be really careful. A lot of moms don't realize, but when they go to formulas, because they can't, if something happens with the mom, if they can't breastfeed, they go to a formula and they say, oh yeah, I don't give my baby dairy, but the formula itself is a dairy-based formula. That right there would create a problem. This is why babies have allergies. Allergies are coming from milk. Eczema, it's proven it comes from milk. If your baby is dealing with eczema, you have to get that gut cleaned out with polyrich peptides, and then it will totally go away. I mean, it's simple stuff like that. Cow's milk should never be in a baby's gut. We're the only mammal that drinks another mammal's milk. It's odd. What they're doing to the cows is disgusting. They're putting a lot of hormones in the cows. I mean, they're trying to turn a 100-pound calf into like a 500-pound calf as quickly as possible. It's loaded with growth hormone. That doesn't need to be in your baby. It doesn't need to be in anybody, to be honest with you. It's just,
even like with the grass-fed cows and the super organic. I mean, even on that aspect.
Unless you're on a farm drinking raw milk, I mean, that's not FDA clear. You're
Sure.
gonna have to do this on your own.
Yeah.
But I mean, then that wouldn't be bad.
Okay.
But I mean, raw milk.
So we talked about this like a little bit before the show, like things like almond milk are okay to drink.
Yeah, as long as it's organic.
Cashew milk, stuff like that.
A lot of the people, they have nut and seed allergies, but the reality is that it's more of a GMO thing. A lot of people think they have almond allergies, but if you buy organic, then sometimes you won't have that problem.
Yeah.
So you got to be organic in that department big time when it comes to the milks. As long as it's not soy and it's not cow's milk, you're fine. I think if it's almond, I think a more neutral food sensitivity based one would be like more cashew milk.
Okay.
Cashew milk is a lot sweeter. It's a lot more mild. It's probably the most consistent milk too, closest to cow's milk as far as consistency to get your kids to adjust and change. Cashew almond milk is really good. Really any of them. A lot of people are resorting to oat milk now. I've heard good things about. It's strong enough to cream your coffee. So if you really try to go, dairy free, you can really get some good stuff and cream your coffee up if you need it.
Yeah. Do the coconut creamer. It's good.
Yeah. Yep. There's lots of ways. Coconut cream is good. Coconut milk, almond milk, rice milk, cashew milk. All of them, they're all good as long as it's not soy and cow's milk.
Yeah, it's super fascinating because I know you do a lot with the younger kids, and I just want everybody to know too. It's not only the babies with the leaky gut, but I feel like a lot of the adults with different types of problems, like you were saying, with eczema, with joint pain, any kind of inflammation that's going on. I mean, I just say it's a leaky gut. You got a leaky gut. You're shoving your face with processed food every day. I mean, like you said, you clean that up and you start living more of a cleaner, healthy lifestyle. Is going to cut that inflammation down.
There's lots of ways to get it. Stress creates it. Gastritis will create it.
A lot,
Food creates it.
Well, I mean, just kind of break down, because I'm going to kind of butcher it, but it was, 60% of the immune cells kind of surround your gut just for that reason, because that's where it's basically guarding your body, because it's like its own thing, man. Like it's a crazy thing.
Food can be medicine, or it can create disease.
Yeah.
I think over 90% of diseases are from food originally. We eat a lot worse than we ever have, and the food is just toxic.
What do you think with the gut-brain connection, which would be really the microbiome causing depression as well? I mean, I've listened to and read about that, just the connection of, your gut's basically sending signals to your brain, and they're working out deals. And if you're given the gut shit, it's going to give your brain shit, and you're going to be in big trouble.
Yeah. I mean, what is it? 80-90% of serotonin is made in the gut.
Yeah.
I mean, the gut is the second brain. It's not just a gut. It's like a second brain. I mean, that's its nickname.
Yeah.
There's a reason for it. It's because they have a communication, and if the communication isn't working, you're going to get symptoms.
Yeah.
Depression is a symptom.
I mean, on a more basic level, you can tell, like, when you eat different types of meals and different types of foods, how you feel afterwards, like whether you feel cloudy or you feel refreshed or you feel energized. So if you eat a big, heavy meal that's full of processed foods and stuff like that, you're usually like ready to go to sleep.
Yep.
Whereas you eat like something like fruit and stuff like that, you're usually ready to go. So
it's tough. It's tough to eat food in good places these days and have good food. Where are you going to get good food,
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that we're constantly in such a high-paced environment, like through work and family and everybody's got everything going on all the time. And they don't take the time to stop and prepare meals like people used to. Mm-hmm. So now it's like, stop at McDonald's, or I'm going to grab the sandwich here. I'm going to just run into Publix and we'll make boxed macaroni and cheese tonight, or whatever the case is for the kids. And they just don't take the time to really.
It's their old habits.
Well, it's another good reason for you, Steve, the whole holistic part of it is because, they come in to see you, and you got your the pulse, your hand on the pulse in kind of all these categories. So you have people that do the preparation meal preps, that you can order these healthy meals. You have, you kind of can recommend these kind of healthy lifestyles. So it's not like, coming back to it, we're not just doing the old style chiropractic, but, if you need some maybe tips on where to go to find healthy nutrition or get meals prepped, at this point, I feel like it's the information, as long as you can get it and find out where to get it. Because a lot of people might not know of those different food companies that pack it up. But I know what you're saying, George. It's super hard, man. It's like just on the go in between meetings.
You've
got
even more going on than I do. You've got kids. So.
Yeah.
I mean, we both work a lot. We both have
tough.
business owners, and it's
you have to prep ahead.
Yeah.
You really have to think outside the box a little, and you got to know if you're beating it up on your diet, you got to really next week you got to clean it up a little bit. You can fall off the wagon, but you got to get back on the wagon.
Yeah.
You can't just keep falling off.
Yeah.
That's where it starts to step ladder down.
It's hard.
That's the hard part.
Yeah.
Is once you just fall
be
off,
aware, and you surround yourself around people that enjoy the same type of topics, the same type of things, and you become a tribe, and that's how everybody kind of stays on board. So that way, if you have to go out to eat, you try to choose a healthier option, or you all kind of eat healthier at that option. It's not like when we were kids when you could just eat whatever you want. And,
dollar menu.
Yeah.
It
catches up to you.
Yeah,
and,
man.
Got to keep your body clean, so you kind of get everybody on board to do what you're doing. You know?
I mean, I notice even like when I eat a lot of processed foods or anything like that, I get issues with my sinuses, and when I notice distinctly when I stop eating them completely, my sinus problems go away.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you need a detox.
Yeah,
yeah, we got a solid detox that knocks that stuff right out.
Yeah,
gets everything really cleaning up. Really cleans out allergies well. Really does.
Yeah,
a lot of it's probably just food sensitivities that are built up in that gut. You got to just kind of flush it out a little bit.
Got to go fasting for a few days.
Yeah, clean it out a little bit.
Burn through it all.
And there's this powder you just.
Get it out.
Bomb it out.
It cleans you right out.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you got to be careful on day one. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the other stuff besides getting adjusted and all the benefits of chiropractic. I know you started doing 2 different types of laser. I guess we could start with more of the rehabilitation. If you have a joint issue, if you have a pulled muscle issue, anything kind of aching. I know you started doing that firsthand a few years ago when I was having some pain. And kind of talk about that. Is that the hot laser? Is that what you call that?
Yeah, that's the class 4. That's the one that all the pro sports teams are using on their pro athletes. I mean, I don't think there's a device out there that will heal you quicker. When you have an inflammatory type of condition, like tendonitis, bursitis, anything that's super inflamed, it gets the circulation there, it knocks it out. Laser technology is the number one research topic in the whole medical world right now. It's just in America, not so much.
You kind of describe what it is, because it was interesting for me to do it the first time. It's got like a metal tip on it. It's about the size of a silver $50, the head of it, and you're just rubbing that on the muscle.
Rub it on the area that's inflamed. Get some circulation moving. So it's the only class 4 is the only class that has a heat attachment to it. All the other lasers are cold laser, so they're safe to put on the head. They're safe to put in areas that don't need heat. That heat wouldn't mess it up. But the heat, this has been around for quite a while. They've been doing it on horses for over 30 years. The FDA just cleared, I think, in 2011, finally, for us to do it on people. But it was so effective in getting rid of bursitis on horses that they did some extensive research and finally got it approved that this is like the Mac Daddy when it comes to bursitis, tendonitis, sprains and strains, quick injuries that you need to get fixed quick. You could put these athletes right back on the field in no time.
So this kind of replaces ultrasound and that sort of
ultrasound.
thing.
I think it takes about 40 to 50 minutes in what I do in 1 minute on the class 4.
Wow.
And what's it doing inside? It's stimulating blood flow?
Stimulating blood flow. It's mitochondrial stimulus. You're producing ATP to get that cellular tissue back in a metabolism of healing rather than being so stagnant. So if you can increase blood flow to the area, get some circulation, you're going to get that oxygen and nutrients there quicker. It's going to put you into mitochondrial stimulation quicker, which means healing. So based on research, I think the laser heals you about 6 times quicker than what you would do naturally on your own. So it's fast recovery. It's and then the light therapy is what's actually healing the tissue. Everything, it's the photons. It's everything. Everything is attracted to light. Light is very attractive, but our skin on our body kind of protects the inner organs and inner areas from getting light. But if that's where these devices come into play, where you can really blast light into an area and create a metabolic stimulus in that area quicker than basically anything out there. So everything is attracted to light. Without light, we wouldn't be here. No plants, no animals could live without it. So it's very attracting, and it really makes cells stimulate well. That's what they've proven basically in research on this. So the class 4 is more for injury based, and then we have the cold laser, which is I practice in more neuro settings with. I activate, acupuncture endpoints. I play with a lot of endpoints in the face with it, the fingers, the feet. Lots of neuropathies. We're pretty successful when you play with acupuncture meridian points with light therapy.
Yeah, I mean, you go to your page, go to Dr. Steve Zanfini's Facebook page, his business page, and you're going to see a light show on there. And you got these people standing on with a vibrating table that shoots lasers through their feet.
Yep.
Take your shoes off, socks off. It's firing in there. Go through the process.
So
what you do.
we do a couple different ways. The first way we decide what we're going to do for you is we stand you up, we check your balance, we determine if there's a brain hemisphere issue. If we decide that there is or isn't, then we know which side to rehab to get that brain stronger on that side. So our clinic is more based on neuro rehab. It's all based on, it's not just if it's a knee injury, we do a lot more. We're going to get the brain stronger on the opposite side to get that knee stronger. So it's not just mechanical rehab, it's actually PT from the brain perspective too. So we decide that if it's an athlete on a game day, we're going to stimulate more left brain. We're going to drive that athlete up. If it's like more of a depression type of case or an anxiety type of case, most of the time it's going to be like a right hemisphere drop. So we'll put some cold laser right on that hemisphere of that brain, right in the motor function of the frontal lobe of the brain, and it's going to drive the motor function up in that hemispherity of the brain while we stimulate the other side of the body, or we can use TENS units on the opposite side of the brain. We could do it through color, we could do it through smell, we could do it through vibration of the vibration plate. There's a lot of variables as to how to get that brain stronger. So how we determine when you get on that vibration plate is what hemisphere you're in before we start. So that way we know we can potentially help you to get that brain balanced. That's
what is the vibrating doing? What is that portion
So the vibration with the lasers on it, the vibration's more like voltage. It makes the laser more stimulated. It runs the path through the nervous system a lot stronger.
Okay.
So I like to say the vibration's more for voltage.
Right.
It doesn't really change too much, but it stimulates you more.
Right.
I mean, think about what you're firing proprioception in the feet is the idea.
Okay.
So we're getting all that proprioception in the feet to go all the way to the brain. There's more proprioception in the feet than anywhere in the brain. So we know if we can get the feet firing, we're going to get the brain talking. So that's the whole idea. So it's a backwards path. So you go up from the feet to the brain and then down the brain to the feet. So it's like a vibration path of going both directions.
Yeah, it's super fascinating how the brain is. I mean, it really is like almost like a mix table. Like if you just tune in this and you turn down that and you just kind of dial it in, it's really, it's a lot of dials. But it's amazing what you can get out of it, by doing that
pretty
stuff.
Cool stuff, yeah.
Even because I like how you incorporate, you were telling us before the show the different smells, lavender or eucalyptus or these different types that can activate, certain signals in your brain along with whatever you're seeing as well. I mean, you encompass all that together. I mean, it's super fascinating.
Yeah, so, and that's a big thing that we do. In that room, we do lots of things. So we determine what hemisphere you are to determine what lighting you're going to get, if it's right brain, we're going to go more blue and green, and if it's going to be left hemisphere, we're going to go more reds, oranges, and yellows. And then we'll put a smell on the collar. We'll roll some lavender on the left collar if it's a left brain issue, peppermint on the right brain if it's a right brain issue. We'll do like figure eights. We'll make the eyes move. We do lots of eye movements. Eye movements are the signal to the brain. The eyes and the ears are the direct connection. So if we do eye movements, we do lots of saccades, lots of pursuits with color involvement. So it's kind of like taking your brain back to like first grade and getting all this sensory information reestablished. So that way that underdeveloped side can get stronger again is the whole key to this thing.
That's cool.
The whole thing is to have a balanced brain, right and left hemisphere. You don't want to be lopsided. That's where you kind of find flaws in life.
So in a typical situation, how long does it take to get your brain back to balanced?
It depends.
I mean, weeks, days, weeks, months?
It depends on how severe the stress is, on whatever that person is going through. If I find a right hemisphere, I do a lot of vertigo stuff. Vertigo is essentially why there's no medication to fix it, why there's no etiology to vertigo. It's a hemisphere issue. When you fix the hemisphere, you fix the vertigo. It's kind of simple like that. But, I think a lot of it has to do with the stress involvement of that person, what they're going through. I mean, I used to take 8 to 12 treatments to get someone to stand up straight and not have vertigo, symptoms. Now I can do it between 1 and 3 visits. So, I mean, just because the laser technology really is that powerful when you run it exactly based on the neurological exam of what's going on. So now we're talking more into the depths of like chiropractic, functional neurology. A lot of it is eye movements. You wouldn't believe how many people have anxiety because their eye muscles are weak. And then when you hold those eye muscles, you literally, once their pulse gets regular, it's like the brain just reestablishes a whole new involvement.
Yeah, so it's like hitting the reset button.
Yep. Yep, and the truth is that if you don't get this type of stuff done, the brain will still remain underdeveloped on one hemisphere, which means like adult ADD is real. There is no cure for it unless you get that hemisphere stronger. So, you really got to find what is going on, because you don't just grow out of ADD. You don't grow out of ADHD. It doesn't work that way, clearly, because look how many adults we see these days that have it. And I mean, you're talking people in their 50s and their 60s still showing symptoms of ADD.
I mean, so this potentially is a huge alternative to drugs.
And it's super easy. It's super simple. It's like going back to the basics: eye movements, color, smell, vibration, light therapy. It's really, I mean, that's all there is to it. It's not
a lot of visualization too, because I think part of it too is the person that you're treating is kind of almost got to believe in it. Like they can't think like, oh, it's not going to work. I'm not going to, because I believe a lot of it you talk about in one of your blogs is kind of the visualization, what you're trying to get out of it. If you're, like you said, if you're stressed out, or if you have limited mobility, if you're visualizing those things healing as you're doing this stuff, if you meditate daily, like I feel like that's a big part of it as well.
Well, it's hard to get everything, if you believe in the law of attraction, if you believe in manifestation, and you're trying to acquire all these goals and things, but your brain is so lopsided that you feel like you're trying your hardest, but you can't get there. And you run through our program, it's like you'll start obtaining your goals. You go out, make a goal sheet for the next month, you'll probably cross off 60 to 70% of them. And then you keep working on those goals, and you keep just knocking them off. So now you can see what it's like to go through 1 month of goal sheet and actually get goals done and get them off your list. I mean, it really takes you to the whole next level, because your brain's going to function better. You're really trying to, but if your right brain's in the hole, I mean, you got to get that thing up. You can't keep listening to music with a beat and expect that right brain to come back up. Mm-hmm. You're just driving one hemisphere, and that's the way that people become. They become adopted and adapted into their lifestyle, and whatever hemisphere is driving them, they stay that way. And that is the repetition of chronic disease, essentially.
So once you get somebody balanced and their hemispheres are balanced, what do you have to? Is there a protocol to keep them balanced?
I mean, they do. I teach a lot of exercises. We do a lot of eye movements. There's a lot of things to do at home. Again, you can diffuse oils. You can listen to soft sounds in the music. Mm-hmm. I teach all my patients to listen to binaural beats. A lot of people don't know what that means, and what it is it's actually healing music. If you go under and you type in solfeggio settings, you could see what all of the different sounds are and what basically they mean. So there's some for healing, there's some for going to the next higher power, there's some for letting things go. There's a lot of different, vibrations that do this to you. So if you go home, you can like sleep with this stuff on at night on a Bluetooth, and you could burn like peppermint or lavender, or depending what hemisphere you're in, and you could totally wake up refreshed. Like that is what your brain needed. And this music, sleeping to it, I mean, they call it the miracle music, basically. It's magic music is what it is.
Well, what we did, George, if you remember when we did this thing called the Wim Hof breathing challenge. We did 30 days of I'm not sure if you've heard of him, Wim Hof, before, but he kind of specializes in breathing techniques and cold water immersion. So I follow him a lot, and he's shown a lot of, he proves all this stuff through science of the benefits of breathing. So you're talking about those sounds. If you YouTube Wim Hof breathing exercises, it has a bunch of different mixtapes, basically, with these binaural, I don't even know how you say it, binaural beats? Binaural. Yeah. It has that type of meditation type music.
Yep.
So you can kind of pick, it's like a 432 hertz, which is relaxed. It shows, these hertz and these waves. And man, when you're doing this deep meditation, and I told George, like, some of this music, like, some guys don't like it in the background, but I feel like it, like you're saying, like, it's taken me to, like, another realm almost, like, because it has that, and your brain kind of just, ciao, I'm off in another world, man.
Just from doing that, I think, I mean, it's during that, was it maybe a 15-minute session that we were doing each day? I mean, I don't know. I guess we found different days where we kind of reacted differently to it, but there's some days where it kind of just totally takes you to another place where you're not thinking about anything. You're just totally relaxed. But then there's also days where it almost like stimulated our mind, and like we're like thinking business ideas and stuff like that. It was like there was no stress involved. It was more just like ideas and like kind of your brain working,
creativity, yeah.
And versus the other. So and we listened to different. I mean, not all the music was exactly the same. So, I mean, kind of getting to your point, I think it probably takes you to different places, the different types of music that you listen to.
A lot of different ways to do this.
You tried it when you were sleeping too, right, George? You found what it was, and you just did like the relaxing, calming.
Yeah, I just whatever was it 528?
One of them, or 4.
I forget what the hertz level was, but I just listened to it. I just put my earpods in and listened to it when I went to sleep.
528's a safe one.
Yeah.
That's the one you're always talking about, right?
We practice a lot of that, yeah. 528 hertz, we run that through the laser, we run it through the music. We do it in many, many ways. I mean, 528 hertz is the miracle. They call that the miracle frequency.
So is that kind of how how the laser works in the brain? Like, for example, it almost replicates the sound of a music, like that frequencies.
It matches.
Like when you did it to me the one
vibration.
time, you're like, do you want to try and focus? Do you have a race today? Do you want to go home and sleep? Like you asked me, you're trying to read a book, or and then you just set it to that hertz that's going to work best, right?
We could program anything in the laser, any frequency you want. And we have a couple apps that do it too. I tell people at home, if they're trying to practice this and they don't have opportunity to get the laser, you can actually go on like a frequency app and you could put like 528 hertz in, and you can literally put it on like an iPad, play it, and you can like run it over yourself. You can run it over your brain. You could put it while you sleep, and it's the same exact thing. It's just like binaural beats, except you're running that frequency. So the laser is basically programmed to run whatever frequency you want.
Cool.
So you can do it more for a healing level. When you walk into that brain room, that crazy laser room that everyone's looking at and wondering what we're doing, you walk in there, and I always say health over spiritual. So if you want to, you got to get your health first. If you have a bad knee, we got to get your knee feeling better, so that way your brain stops signaling pain. You can't think clear when your brain's in basically pain mode. So you have to be clear, and that's where we go over all the principles in life on how to get you out of pain and get you like comfortable and moving in the right direction. Once you're out of pain, then that's when we could go into that brain room and talk about some spiritual stuff, and then that's where the frequencies come into play. People don't realize, but those frequencies all those hertz, they're all spiritual frequencies. They're all vibrations. They are the chakras. 528 hertz is me. That's the tiger eye in the middle of the chakra bracelet. So that's exactly what that vibration means. So when you see someone with a chakra bracelet on, they're practicing vibrations. It's nothing different than what we're doing
That's
here.
what you're wearing now, right?
Yep. So, I practice with a lot of tiger eyes. So I use a lot of blue tiger eyes, and I do a lot of the brown tiger eyes, but 528 hertz is love. So I believe that I'm practicing love while I put these on my hand, especially because chiropractic it's a very touching, healing art, basically. So I believe that, what goes around comes around, and if you're giving love, you're going to get love. It's the law of attraction. So you're creating like a tribe. So, you can kind of sense people that are into this stuff just by their jewelry they wear. They might be wearing tiger eyes, and they have no idea what they're even doing. And that's 528 hertz. We practice it in multiple forms. And when you get on this vibration path, you can have anything you want.
Manifestation, right?
Anything you want. Anything. And however quick you get it just depends on how motivated and how tunnel vision you are into getting what you want. Write it down. You have to write it down. If you write it down, you're going to see it. You're going to visualize it. I recommend everybody. I tell everyone, get a dry erase board. It's called a visual board now. Write your goals on there every month. Put another box, however you want to track your goals. Just keep knocking them off the list. But look at it and see it. Vision boards are important, especially for affirmations in the morning and doing that stuff. It keeps you right in the right path. So,
yeah, it's very important.
A lot of the people that I practice with the 528 hertz, I give them a book. I give them the book, The Secret. I'm a big believer in that book. I read that book when I was real early in my career, and I was like struggling on how to build a practice, and because I started from scratch. And I read The Secret, and I literally doubled my practice the next month.
You hear a lot of people say that.
In 1 month.
You hear people say that.
Yeah, and that book has changed my life. I buy hundreds of copies a year, and I just give them to people that I know need it, or they're in the right tribe that understand the book, that it will make that much of an impact on. Because if you read that book and you play that way that book says, you'll never have to worry about a single thing again. Never would. It just takes time to build it, practice it, and practice it. It's learning how to practice that.
Sure. I feel like I've talked about this on the podcast before. It was kind of like a paradigm shift. That's like my new word I've been using. It's the whole new paradigm, because it's just like you're saying. Like once you open your eyes to the possibilities of what can happen, and the visualization and manifesting what you want to happen. Like, I was in such a fixed mindset prior that you're just kind of blindsided by all that, and it's super fascinating. Once you shift that paradigm and you kind of open your eyes, and like you talk a lot about manifesting what you want in your life, law of attraction, man, it's huge. It's such a big thing, especially in business and personal life, family. Like, it's such a big game changer.
Ceilings only exist in your own mind.
Yeah, man,
they really do.
Cool.
You know, you create your own ceilings. If you believe that there's no ceilings, then
that's what's happening.
Then that's when you're gonna get that vision board, and those goals are gonna keep getting crossed off.
Yeah, I think when The Secret first came out, I read it as well when it first came out, and I think it was because it was a very popular book at the time, book/movie. They made the brief movie about it, but I think what a majority of people took out of it, which wasn't really what the intention of it was, is that if you think about it, there's going to be money showing up in your mailbox. Which isn't the case. It's the opposite side of that, where if you think about it, it's going to attract you. Just like you said, you're gonna work towards your goals. As long as you visualize it, the laws of attraction are going to make you kind of attract towards those items, as opposed to going off somewhere else and doing something different. And I think that's kind of a little bit of what I took out of the book, as opposed to what a lot of people did. And that's why there was such controversy with it. That all you have to do is think about it, and you're going to have $1 million show up in your bank account tomorrow.
Yeah, I never even saw the movie. I still haven't, and that's my favorite book.
Yeah, I mean, the movie's kind of the movie. Yeah, the movie didn't do the book justice.
Because when I read the book, I read that it took me a long time to get through that book. It took me like a few weeks, almost a month.
Yeah,
because I'd read a chapter and it made me feel a certain way. So then I would reflect on it, so that way I could move on past that feeling.
Or read it again.
But it took me back to every single lifeline thing that ever happened to me on why it was good or why it was bad. And I literally just kept looking at it like a timeline. So I kept going through the book really slow, but it took me all the way back as to why I was there and why I wasn't.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, your environment had a lot to do with it with me.
Yeah, the movie a little bit more reminded me of, you ever see was it Ancient Aliens on History Channel? Like, where what if this? And it was kind of long. It kind of had that kind of, I don't know, extraterrestrial overtones to it.
Yeah.
So, but the book was completely different.
Yeah.
And so I mean, that you're not missing anything by not seeing the movie.
I never recommend anyone to see the movie. I'm like,
After the book. Yeah.
I'm like, I've never seen the movie. They're like, oh, I've seen the movie, or I've seen that movie out there. I was like, don't watch the movie. Just read the book. Take your time through it. Trust me.
It allows you to get your own interpretation of things as well.
Yep. Yeah, we do. I buy a lot of those books on Amazon. I give probably about 100 of them away a year. A lot of them to young athletes, mostly. Like kids that are young, smart. They already are on the right path. They're head in their class. They want to be doctors. They want to be something. They already know what they want to do. And I'm like, this is for you. You know, take this on your journey and keep it. It's going to take notes in it. It's going to be a big book for you forever. So
yeah, you're super active in Martin County High School. Is that you do the basketball team up there?
We do a lot of those guys. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I see you're posting a lot about that.
Yeah,
That's
it's
good.
fun. Well, we get a lot of the sports guys coming in.
Yeah,
the kids.
Yeah, cool.
You know, because I think we have the best rehab center in Stuart to begin with, and then we have the right technology where, you know, these kids come in, and what if they're super stressed and they just need their brain balanced that day, rather than coming in and just assuming they just need a good pop. You know, there's a big difference into getting the mindset. Their body could feel good, but if their brain says no, they're going to be hesitant in their games. So
is that how you kind of gauge things when, let's just say a new high school athlete was to come into your practice? Do you first check their brain levels, and then adjust them and that type of thing?
Really, everybody does. Yeah, really, every patient on every visit gets an exam, because you just never know what's really going on in the mind of that person. Things can change and jump really quickly. If there's some kind of trauma that's going on in their life, you can get a brain hemisphere to change real quickly. And that's when you start getting, you know, you feel anxiety, depression, a lot of right brain stuff, you know. So you got to always keep these kids balanced. And, you know, like our mentor says, he's like, think about what you're doing to these kids. I mean, every single week, these kids are lighting up the papers. And all these kids that are the star of the papers are my kids. So it's like, there's no coincidence involved here.
No.
I just attract the best. And, you know, my mentor used to say, he's like, think about what you're doing to them. You have the most balanced brain athletes on the entire field. They're the most balanced. Their right and their left hemispheres are actively working. They're not just all impulsive, and then they're not all hesitant. They're right where they want to be. They're going to play like they want to play, and it makes you optimal. So that's what we kind of get these kids to do, and they come in specifically on game day. They go in that brain laser room, and if they need some rehab on their knee, we'll focus on rehab. But if they're feeling pretty healthy, which I would say 98% of them do, they're coming in for the maintenance. They're coming in to get geared up for that game. It's like waving a red flag in front of a bull. It's gonna be like, let's go. Let's turn the brain on now. So, the stuff that we do, we run high energy settings, high solfeggio frequencies, high binaural hertz, binaural beats. We run into the 941 categories, and we run these kids, and I mean, they're like, their brain's on another level. They're ready to go. So we make some really good athletes in town. It's pretty cool.
It's interesting.
And I think if they hit all parts of your office, if they start with the massage first, then come get cracked by you and finish off with the laser, I mean, that's a trifecta, man. That's a good day if you ask me.
We keep these kids healthy. But, another perspective to it is we play with a lot of nutrition. I teach these kids, you need nutrition. I mean, if I told you what LeBron James ate every single day for vitamins, you would look at it like it was one meal. It's like that. You need a lot of oil in the body. Oil keeps the body loose. So, a lot of fish oil. I teach them all about how to keep their joints healthy because, sports are all repetitious for the extremities. So if you're running a lot, you're going to need fish oil for your hips. If you're throwing a lot, you're going to need it for your shoulders. It just keeps everything kind of really lubricated. I think you got to keep everything like WD-40, keep everything loose.
Yeah. I mean, you hear all the time that there's, as far as vitamins go, there's good vitamins and bad vitamins. So like the kind of the stuff you buy just at Walmart or something like that are not necessarily as good as other vitamins, and they're not regulated by the FDA. So
right.
What do you recommend? I mean, do you recommend to your clients like the specific types of vitamins to take and that have been researched?
It is extremely important, actually. This is one thing I pry on with my patients. I mean, I carry everything, and I tell them if you need anything, you just let me know, and I'll try to find it, and I'll get it from a good lab. All of our stuff is all pharmaceutical grade. It's all third-party tested. So, the problem with buying over-the-counter fish oil, like Walmart, you could get 2 bottles for $10, but it's got more mercury and more PCBs in it, to cause it's got more cancer-causing stuff in it than anything out there. It's like you're doing more harm by taking it than you are by not. Mm-hmm. You'd rather have pain than actually take that stuff and cause cancer. So, the big thing about fish oil is it's how many filters. What does it screen for? Is it mercury free? Is it lead free? Is it PCB free? You got to fish is toxic. Fish is really toxic. You got to really watch how much, like they say, you watch how much sushi you eat. It's got a lot of mercury in it. So you're not going to want to take mercury in, so you got to get a lab that's been filtering it out. And that's really what you're paying for when you buy good quality vitamins, is that the stuff is actually toxic free. It's actually really, really good for the body, keeps the body from wanting to get that DNA to code for cancer, protect it. Its prevention goes all the way with this stuff. So, yeah, we keep everything in stock in our office. So we're like your one-stop shop. You could come in on non-appointments and just grab, whatever you need, and my assistant can grab whatever you need. It's just keep it on a steady basis. Buy it from us because we know we're giving you good stuff.
Yeah.
Third-party tested. And to be honest with you, it's not that much more expensive. It's a little bit more expensive than probably average market stuff, but you're paying for that third-party tested. Again, the FDA doesn't regulate everything that's over the counter of GNC. Right. They're getting sued again because they're faking their ingredients. They had an incident. They tested their stuff, and they found all this fake stuff in it. So you just got to be really careful. I mean,
I've even heard of protein powders. They're putting feathers in them to fluff them up, and
or
just
wood
junk
chips.
like that. Yeah,
yeah. A lot of this stuff is wood chips, like wood dust.
That's terrible.
They're using it as fillers. They don't. I just wouldn't buy anything over the counter. I just don't trust it unless it has that third-party stamp that says it's been tested. We know what's in it. Then you can't lie. So that's the way we kind of play. Just if it hasn't been tested, you don't take it. So.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's on the nutrition side. Every time I've came to you and I re-up with all my goodies, I mean, it's a night and day difference on how I feel, energy-wise, recovery-wise. I never even knew about magnesium until I started coming to you, and you take that before bed for muscle soreness, recovery. I mean, I can go from a workout that I would be super sore the next day, take all the vitamins I'm supposed to, magnesium with all, fish oil and all the other stuff that you prescribe, and it's absolutely amazing. I mean, mix in the green powder mix, which has all the veggie mix on top of that for breakfast. I mean, it really does make a difference. I mean, you think like right now I'm all out of it. I'm like, no, I probably don't need it. But then the second you go 1 or 2 days and you're fully nutritionized, I don't even know if that's the word, but you get all your vitamins in you. It's like 9-day difference, man. It
time.
really is. The way you think, sleep, act, your mood, it's really is important. And I like to think I get it all through food, but like you said, it's super hard to get everything you need just from eating a piece of salmon or eating enough broccoli. Like the nutrition side is super important.
Big time.
I mean, even for like the kids, just with the DHA and the D3 and the probiotics, I mean, they still get sick, but it's not like, but with my son, earlier days, we were making hospital trips because he was like deathly ill. And then we started substituting with probiotics and eating healthier. And, it's really a night and day difference. It's awesome.
Well, most of us are mineral deficient. That's why this stuff works so well,
I think that's what I feel. I almost feel like kind of like floating, like kind of high, like buzzing. When you can tell, like, oh, well, that's what I'm supposed to feel like. Like, you're zooming. That's where you feel good. It's good.
Life is stressful, We don't realize what we're really doing to ourselves,
Yeah.
We're really beating ourselves up by working and trying to make things work,
Yeah.
We work a lot. It's very depleting to the body, so.
Well, I want to come back around. We forgot to finish up talking about the microbiome, and the most important part is poop, because we didn't finish it, because that's kind of your final, like you test for it. So on top of, if you kind of have a feeling that the gut is leaking, not only do you just play guesswork and say, oh, take some probiotics, you say, no, poop in this bag, and we're going to send it off, and we're going to get it tested to see what's really happening inside. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, we do. If I check your hemispheres in your brain, we do our little neuro exam on you, and we find that, there's some left brain stuff going on. The left brain is a direct connection to the gut, AKA they call it the safety pin. So if there's a break in the safety pin, if the safety pin's open, we're not getting that left brain and gut connection the way it should be. And so when we find that if you have some left brain issues, we're gonna make, if you have a left hemisphere deficit, I'm gonna stool test you. There's something in that immune system that's driving your left brain to go weak. So because the left brain's the direct connection, I would say almost 99.9% of the time we're gonna find something wrong in your poop test. So I automatically say you have a left brain hemisphere issue. I explain the gut and the brain axis, the connection. You really need to get a stool test. It's really going to be important to know what's going on. A lot of these kids have a lot of issues. If they've been on a lot of antibiotics, they're going to have a leaky gut. So, but not only do the antibiotics do that, they also flourish a lot of the bacteria in the gut too. So when it wipes out the good, it lets the bad really manifest. And we're talking more like strep and staph infections, fungus infections. So there's something potentially, I stool test for 3 reasons. There's something potentially wrong in the gut. One is pathogen, bacteria, fungus, virus, worms, parasites. We're going to test it all. The other one is leaky gut. Do you have a leaky gut? Maybe that's the problem. There's things leaking out. You're not getting the nutrients that you're supposed to be, absorbing. Or the other one is more like food allergies, food sensitivities, food allergies. Let's see if food is what's causing your problem. So it kind of lights up the whole tree in the sense that I know if it's a pathogen, if it's a leaky gut, or I know if it's a food problem. If it's a food problem, then we get a food panel done. We find out what foods you're sensitive to, so that way we start eliminating them. If you start eliminating them, you're going to get your gut fixed. But then that last leaky gut marker really tells me if the gut is leaking from food or if it's maybe leaking from a bacteria like something like H. pylori. H. pylori is a really serious bacteria that we find in a ton of kids and a ton of adults. H. pylori are these little bacteria that eat holes in your gut. So if we're talking leaky gut, I mean, you could have literally H. pylori eating your gut apart and you never even knew. Because if you have an endoscopy or colonoscopy, any kind of, you go to a GI specialist, they're never going to see that. They're only going to find candida, which is like white fungusy patches all along the gut. And then, you get on some kind of antifungals or you do it naturally. You could do holistic ways of killing it, but they're never going to find this type of stuff. So when you have a stool test, you can prove if there's H. pylori or not. That could be the whole cause of why the gut is leaking or why the autoimmune conditions are happening. So you have to kill that first, and then you have to get the gut back to its normal state. You have to get polyrich peptides, colostrum, stuff in there to seal the leaky gut. Good probiotics. Probiotics are going to be the big key. So, but doing the stool test kind of gives you a directional path as to what is really going on with you. Why are things happening? It can be from reflux to cramping, bloating, diarrhea, constipation. And it kind of eliminates what is the problem. So The stool test is the first step of defense in the lab work that we do. Showing me blood work, what is blood going to do? I mean, if you got high white blood cells, maybe you got a leaky gut, something's leaking into the bloodstream. Again, it's coming from the gut. So we need to see what's going on in the gut to fix everything else in the body is how we kind of approach it. And your brain in your neuro exam will tell me if I need to stool test you right out of the gates. Now, if I start working on you and we're not getting, or you're still having gut symptoms, any gut symptom, you should really get a stool test because, I mean, I call it the biggest peace of mind. You'll know what you need to eat, what you need to do to get it fixed. Prevention is key with the gut. If you're going to save yourself from getting cancer, you're going to save yourself from getting autoimmune conditions. If you keep that gut regulatory, the brain stays regulatory, the body stays regulatory. So
those are direct results of the leaky gut.
Absolutely, yeah. So you can have it. You can have the leaky gut from so many different ways, but at least knowing how leaky it is or what is going on is the biggest key factor. Now, we all have infections. That's what people don't realize. So I've had a weight issue my whole life. I've lost about 80 pounds. I've kept it off. The biggest difference I do really is I do celery juice in the morning now. But before this, to get all this weight off, I was eating a lot of oils and I was taking probiotics. I was helping get my gut flora back to normal. I used to have a lot of acne, which was fungus. It was candida coming out of my face. I mean, it was all over my tongue. It was bad. So I did a stool test on myself a couple months ago to see why I may be dealing with weight issues still my whole life. I have a full-blown staph infection. I have a strep infection. I have got some candida in my system. I think I've got a parasite in my system. I'm like, when you have all of these infections going on,
and they're all just totally hidden.
They're all hidden. They're all hidden. You would never know this. And you could go to a GI specialist, and until they stool test you, they would never find this either. So, I mean, parasites are tricky. They hide. They come out and eat when you eat. So, I mean...
So all the things that you found, like there's ways to treat that.
Absolutely. Holistic herbs, believe it or not, and silver, colloidal silver. People don't realize how important this type of stuff is. It's all holistic. It's all natural. You're not going to damage your microbiome doing this stuff. It's proven to be safe on your microbiome. So it's going to get rid of all the pathogens, really. So you can kill off all these things naturally. Now, if it's like the real serious ones, on the first page of the stool test, the results, if it's on there, then we'll send you off for antibiotics if it's needed. If like C. difficile is present or something real serious. But when it comes to just average things, I mean, if you took a stool test and you went to your GI doc and you said, I had a staph or a strep infection, they would say to you, well, that's normal. I don't think it's normal.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it.
I eat a cookie and I gain 5 pounds, so tell me how this is normal. So, I mean, if I feed these guys sugar, boom, I blow up. So, and then if I eat gluten, then I get super bloated, and then the movement stops. You're not getting all that motility. Then all these critters are eating all your sugar. So I mean, it becomes like you realize what you're going through in life depends on what your gut is doing.
Yeah, I read a little bit about staph infections here recently, and I didn't realize that they actually sit dormant in your body.
Yeah.
And then they wait for the opportunity where you have a cut or you have something like that, and that's where they manifest.
Yep. When they sense the immune system goes to...
I didn't realize that. And then it can obviously get worse from there. But
well, they all do it together. That's what's the crazy thing. Anthony Williams talks about it in the Celery book a lot, is that how staph and strep love to pair up with the Epstein-Barr virus, which Epstein-Barr is really why people are so chronically fatigued. It's a virus that likes to attack you, and staph and strep, they all run and play together when the immune system gets weak, and they sense it. It's all through chemical. So when it goes weak, then that's when they manifest. So unless you're like steadily knocking this stuff out, eating Chinese herbs, which nobody does, I mean, there's like specific stuff you have to take to knock some of this stuff out. But it's all doable.
But you can detect all that through the
You can detect it. The stool test tells you what's the next step. Do you need to detox? Do you need to kill off, pathogens? Do you need to watch your food? Maybe it's just food the whole time. People don't realize they're super allergic to something. It can be even vegetables, fruits.
Yeah, that's what I was telling George about before. Is some people react different. You could tell them to eat broccoli their whole life, but they're having an inflammatory reaction to it. It's not doing them any good.
Yeah, food sensitivities are real.
Yeah, we had talked about it. I don't know, a few months back. I did one of the DNA tests that's supposed to give you like food sensitivity, but it really didn't tell you anything. It was kind of a waste of money. Yeah, I think.
Well, a lot of it, I think people are more sensitive, honestly, to pesticides on the food, not the food. When we were kids, we never had these type of issues, to be honest with you. We never had allergies like this. We never had the sickness. I mean, we are sicker now than we've ever been in the world's history. And it's like, why are we sicker if we're getting better with technology, better smart, we're getting more knowledgeable about what's going on?
I'm getting sicker.
We're getting sicker, though.
The bottom dollar.
You know what I mean? So, I mean,
all these companies are trying to do things bigger, better, and cheaper.
Yep. So, I mean, between the combination of the dairy industry doing what they're doing, the food industry doing with pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, and then the quality of the food on top of it, the animal stuff, it's like, it's really hard to eat clean and healthy.
Super tough, yeah, man.
This stuff is real. They didn't have any of this stuff. The grain and the gluten wasn't grown the way it was when we were kids. Mm-hmm. Stuff used to grow like 10 feet tall and blow in the wind. Now stuff's like 2 feet off the ground and looks like golf course grass. I mean, the wheat in America is 100 times more concentrated than anywhere in the world. And we wonder why we have allergies. You eat a little bit of that, you are going to have a major reaction. One piece of rice is like eating 100 pieces of rice. Imagine when you eat a full meal.
Yeah.
That's the reality. I have patients that go to Italy half the year. They eat grain, gluten. They eat it all. They have zero problems.
I hear that, too.
They come in Florida, eat one little bit of gluten, boom, their knee swells up like a watermelon. That's to show you the real problem is the wheat. It's really, really bad. You got to stay grain-free as much as you can because it's all been GMO'd. It's all been processed. It's all been calculated, and it's all been grown to be very, very concentrated.
Wow.
So,
have you heard of I heard an awesome or an interesting study a while back about the fecal matter transplants. Have you heard about those? No, you haven't. Super interesting. I think it's still on I don't know if it's really approved per se, but I was at least reading the studies that they have with mice, how they'll take an overweight mice or a mouse and put the fecal matter from a skinny mouse into the obese mouse, and within time it becomes skinny, and do the vice versa. They put the obese mouse fecal into the skinny, same thing. And they did that with another test, but it's just showing you how that's in your microbiome. Like that's the key to you take a healthy normal. They did it with aging. They took a young mouse's fecal matter, put it into an older one, and the older mouse started showing signs of getting younger. Like it was
it's all about balancing your biome.
It's super interesting.
The microbiome
man.
is the key.
Fascinating.
That's where I think the pharmaceuticals are being kind of, with all the research showing that medications are really bad for you now, I think they're going to be forced to have to go into like pharmaceutical grade nutrition later down the road. I guess they're going to have to. Yeah, we're going to have medicine for certain things. We always have to have medicine, but not really the way we need it. I mean, there's a lot of
the pharmaceutical industry has just kind of developed drugs for problems we didn't really have.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what if pharmaceuticals, they all of a sudden wanted to do what we do and then made us the minority again? You know what I mean? Right. What if they wanted to get into changing the whole country holistic, teaching people about probiotics, teaching people about how to avoid a leaky gut? What if the food industry changed? What if we actually went healthy? They would be number one again.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's and then we'd be the minority again. So what if they were forced to do that?
Yeah.
Then we'd have some pretty healthy people. We'd be a lot smarter, a lot healthier. Our brain would be actually functioning correctly. It kind of makes you think that with all the research that's coming out with leaky gut now, and they know the causes are, number one is medication. It's like you're gonna get forced to. People are gonna say, you're gonna wake up and say, "Hey, I don't want to take that." Yeah. What do I have for another approach? And then they meet what we do. It's
even as something as simple as like ibuprofen. I've heard the downsides of that just rips your gut apart, and it's I've been taking that for all my life.
It does. They burn holes. I can't tell you how many ulcers are caused from ibuprofen. I mean, but the ibuprofen story I say is Alonzo Mourning's story. Guy was at the elite top of his game for the Miami Heat, and then he eats all these ibuprofen. That's why he had kidney transplants. Wow. He blew his kidneys out on ibuprofen. They say the average kidney can only withstand 4,000 ibuprofen each.
Oh wow! In the life of
until you be on dialysis, essentially, and that's research driven. That is not an opinion. You got to watch what you eat. So I have patients that are addicted to taking things for pain relief, NSAIDs. I tell them, okay, take Tylenol one day, take Advil the next day, take something else, Excedrin the next day. Just keep mixing it up because one NSAID causes a disease or a syndrome. If you keep mixing it up, you're going to not just keep overpowering one of those. So just mix it up. And plus, I mean, again, you're going to burn holes in your gut too. So I always say take it with some fish oil, put some lubrication in there with it, so that way it absorbs and it slides down a little quicker. Because those little ibuprofen, they're kind of sticky. When you put them in your mouth, they'll stick to you.
They got that coating on it,
If that coating sticks to your gut liner, then the medicine gets exposed, it burns a hole right through you.
Wow.
That's another way to get leaky gut.
Now, is that true with
NSAIDs.
just Advil or the over-the-counter ibuprofen, is it true like sometimes you get
the gel
like
caps?
you get the big like from the doctor.
The gel's better.
They'll give you the 900 milligram, like the big just regular pills.
Those can definitely burn.
Same thing?
If it sticks, it burns.
Yeah.
The liquid gels are definitely the best. I always tell the way, like if I have a headache and I have to take something, I'll take what's that stuff called? Goodies, like an aspirin, Goodies, and it's already in a powder. I put it under my tongue and take it in through my bloodstream now, rather than putting it in my gut. But again, it's a powder, so it's not going to damage. It may kill some of the gut flora, but it's not going to burn a hole through it because it's not a whole pill stuck.
Right.
I think more of the scenarios of the hospitals getting more like ulcer situations, I think are all ibuprofen driven. I think they're mostly ibuprofen. Those things, when they stick, it's just the power of ibuprofen. It really...
Well, it does what it's opposite of what it's supposed to do, because when I dove into the running world this year, everybody would say don't take ibuprofen because it causes inflammation. Like you're taking it to help with inflammation, your knee pain, and it's doing the opposted. It's really inflaming
you.
Yeah, like there was stories of a guy that had constant joint pain, and he was taking ibuprofen to help that pain, and then he heard these type of stories and stopped taking it, and all the inflammation's gone. I mean, it's like, that's so stupid.
I love teaching people about curcumin. Curcumin is such a key. I mean, I take a little bit every night, and I haven't taken ibuprofen in a long, long time because I just keep my joints, anti-inflamed, basically.
You just take a shot with like turmeric or
We have
like
this,
that,
so it's curcumin, but it's a liposomal curcumin.
Okay.
New Medica makes a really good product with this. So it goes in as a fat. It has the curcumin's in the center of the molecule. So as your body starts to absorb the fat, because the fat sticks to the cell liner of the stomach, as it's absorbing the fat, it takes the curcumin also. So it's cellular now. It's not digestively. So you're going to be, the absorption I think is 100%.
Wow.
Whereas, over-the-counter curcumin and turmeric little tablets, I think you only absorb about 15 to 20% of them.
Yeah, I've been taking, it's a liquid form, and I forget what the brand is. It's basically I take a little shot. It's like a little, it's almost like a cream or something like that, and you just shoot that.
Yep. As long as it has a fat component, I think you're good,
Yeah, it's thick.
The black seed thing is a little bit of a myth. Anthony Williams talks a lot about that because black seed actually burns you. It's going to burn you. So if it's going to burn you, you're not going to absorb it. Your body's going to go into that inflammatory stage again rather than trying to go anti-inflammatory. So a lot of people think that black seed, extract and all that stuff is good with it. You don't want that. So if anything, I just say take your turmeric pills with some fish oil.
Yeah.
Or take it with an avocado. Eat it. If you're going to eat it with something, just eat it with fat. Fat is the key with that one.
Talk to me a little bit, because I've always heard, and I probably should have dove into it to learn a little more, but like alkaline water, like your pH levels, like what's the benefit of because you've posted that before of healthy water to drink and how your levels,
absolutely,
even getting into the breathing stuff we were doing, it talks about doing the breathing work, get your pH levels in your body, like your oxygen level. Tell me a little bit about that.
So we have an alkaline water machine. There's a really great company out in Palm City. What are they called? pH Prescription. And they have some of the best science behind why you want to drink water at a certain level, basically. Our diets are very acidic diets. If you drink a lot of alcohol, it's very acidic, especially if you're drinking wine. So, the lower the pH scale of your blood, the easier the chance of getting cancer is. So, bacteria and viruses like cancer, they love acidic environments. So if you drink alkaline water, it's like the balance of what you did, of whether you're eating bad or drinking. It's really easy to lower the pH. If you have a lower pH, that's when you're going to get infections. There's no doubt about it. So keep drinking the alkaline water all day. I think the alkaline machine that we have puts it out at about 7.8. It's a little under 8, which I think, I can't remember the research that they put behind it, but, we get every patient that we can trying to get these machines and drink these. They have at-home, machines now that you can put
filters
under your sink.
And stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and they're not super, super expensive either.
Yeah, I just installed a reverse osmosis of mine with an alkaline filter on it. It doesn't get quite to the levels that you're talking about, but it does add an alkaline component to the
Well,
water.
the alkaline component is what they do is they nuke the water, and then when you add minerals back to the water, that's what raises the pH. Again, why you feel so good when we give you nutrition, like if we give you power greens, if we give you magnesium, if we give you our pelagic minerals from the sea, a lot of it, you don't realize that these minerals are the voltage or the charge, and that's exactly what the water's doing. It has the minerals in it, and that's what raises the pH. The more minerals in it, the higher the pH. So they cook the water, make sure it's clean, and then they add all this good stuff to it. So that's why the alkaline machines are really what you want rather than almost like an RO. Because then you're getting all those minerals replaced back in it, and it's actually a pretty clean, healthy water.
And compared to just drinking water out of the faucet, it's like the water out of that is just...
Well, the city water is full of chlorine. It's full of... If you ever get the city water tested, it has a lot of contaminants in it. It's really bad for your gut. If you live in a big city, like I think Palm Beach County is, it's going to be a fluoride county. Fluoride ruins gut flora. Fluoride causes leaky gut. Fluoride is not supposed to be in the body. It's a neurotoxin. I tell people, they're like, oh, well, fluoride's good for you. I go, where can you prove that fluoride's good for you? Maybe in the dental industry when you're polishing it on, but that's even proven to not be even effective. So, fluoride is a neurotoxin. You go on the CDC's website, you type in fluoride, it flat out says it's a neurotoxin. And the government, they give you a little bit of it at a time, and they tell you a little bit's not bad.
It's supposed to clean it, make it... That's what they're saying it's supposed to do?
I have no idea what they're doing behind it, but I know what it's doing to us.
Yeah.
It's killing your flora, and it shows that it makes you kind of like a dummy. Fluoride really dumbs down the brain. It makes you more cooperative as to following the media, following all these negative influences.
Well, there's the government's angle.
Yeah, and a little bit here and there. But the truth is that if you look in the history of fluoride goes way back. It goes into the Hitler days, and it goes into the Roger Stalin days. Roger Stalin killed 20 million people on fluoride. Hitler killed almost 5 million people on fluoride. So what makes this healthy for you to put it in our water? If you think we're not like literally on like maybe a little bit of a population control here, then what is the reason for this?
Yeah.
Like, why are you putting that in our water? So Martin County, where we live in Stuart, luckily it's not a fluoride county. But, I always say the difference, like if you lived on the line of Port St. Lucie County versus Martin County, the joke is that you could buy a home that's like maybe $100,000 less on that line in PSL County rather than Martin County, but on the fluoride line, you're going to be drinking fluoride over on that line.
Yeah.
You could literally be 1 mile from the border, and if you're St. Lucie County, you're drinking fluoride. You're giving your children fluoride. It's really not good for you. It's terrible for you.
Yeah.
That's why we have in our office, we have fluoride-free alternative toothpastes. They make your teeth whiter than what you could do whitening.
I know I was battling with my my dental person. They were like, "No, you just gotta rinse with this fluoride mix every night." I'm like, "Why? What is this? I've heard it's garbage. It's trash." And she's still on some old technology. I was telling her about the micro-biome in the mouth, and I was going on. And she's like, "No, I think that's like woo woo. Like that's." Yeah. I'm like, no, I just don't think you've read a book lately.
Well, fluoride absorbs into the palate, the top palate right there. So, and where do you think it goes to the brain? How quick? Boom, right there.
Yeah.
So you got to be really careful. Like I try to be as fluoride free as I can. You know, and when I go into cities that I know are fluoride, I drink bottled water. I'm just trying to really not get that stuff in. They say, oh, a little bit now won't kill you, but the reality is if you drink a little bit for 20, 30 years,
it's not gonna be doing much good. That's for sure.
It's not good.
Yeah.
It's not good. So the whole fluoride thing is the whole big thing. The alkaline water, keep the pH high, keeps everything from wanting to infect you. When we have a lot of immune issues in our office, we tell people to come. We tell our patients, grab a jug, and you can come fill up anytime you want.
Okay. Yeah, like the 5-gallon fill-up station at your place? Okay.
Yeah, we got one of those. So, our patients come in, and they fill their jugs up all the time. I'll have
to bring mine next time,
yeah. And it's like, because, what is I think a gallon of alkaline water is almost like $5 these days.
Is it really?
It's like, it's wild. And they know it is that good for you, but they don't want everybody drinking that stuff. So it's only the people that can afford to do it will do it. So we tell in Stuart, if you're a patient of ours, bring your jug in, come fill it up anytime you want. But these machines are great. They're really going to keep you in the prevention. Again, prevention.
Yeah.
Being aware of what is going on in the real world and staying away from that stuff. If you keep limiting all these little factors, you're going to live a long, healthy life. Especially if you're active, you exercise, you take your good nutrition, you keep your gut healthy. this is the trick to living long and healthy again, and loving life. 528 hertz again, loving life. You have to be healthy to love it. You can't be miserable and try to get through this one.
Yeah.
So it's a tough world.
Yeah, super tough. Well, I want to talk a little bit more about, because I know you started doing chiropractic with just kind of anybody that you could fill the practice with, and you've kind of over the years steered towards more pediatric chiropractic, and I know that's kind of what your heart's been set on, recently. And I know you do a lot of, you deal with a lot of kids, especially with ADHD. I know I just saw you came from like a seminar of learning some more information about that, how it's tied to the brain. And we were talking more about that before the show. Just touch a little bit on your experience with kids with ADHD and kind of diagnosing that, and maybe some what they can do to help it.
Yeah, it goes to that whole, you first come in, we do a little exam on you, we check out what hemisphere is down. ADD, ADHD is all right hemisphere deficiency, basically. It's a deficit on that right side. Again, it's driving these kids. My passion for children has been there for a long time. Now that I'm doing these seminars with Dr. Malilo, there's a seminar and a conference that we do out in Marietta, in Georgia, and it's based on brain balancing, and it's based on hemispherity. And it's all ADD, ADHD, autism derived. It's all triggered through that. When you bring these kids in, the reality is that they have something underdeveloped in their brain. Again, the reason why we love doing this stuff is that because there's no medicine that proves that any of this stuff is helping these children. And the reality is that these kids have a hemisphere issue. They need to get that brain evaluated and fixed and get it fine-tuned up. Again, through color, smell. So this method that we're doing is called the Malilo method. The biggest thing that he is real big into is, again, we're using the laser therapy on these kids, but we're also checking primitive reflexes. People don't realize that all these kids have primitive reflexes still active, and that is not a good thing at all. So when the primitive reflexes are supposed to be gone on a child, before the age of 5, there's a lot of these reflexes that disappear in the early childhood. But if these primitive reflexes are still active, the brain does not develop. The brain remains underdeveloped, and that's why we still see people and adults with adult ADD and adult ADHD. It does. The brain is still underdeveloped in that sense. So when we see these children, we can really get that brain souped up and get those primitive reflexes gone. And once we get those primitive reflexes gone, then that's when we start to see drastic changes because the brain is starting to develop now.
What's a primitive reflex?
Primitive reflex, the most popular one would be like the one that they run on the bottom of the baby's foot and the baby's toes flare.
Oh, okay.
So that's an example of a primitive reflex. There's a bunch of them in the kids. There's one that goes on the cheek that is really big when when a baby has a problem latching. Most of the time they have a primitive reflex that's not active. So you have to keep stroking it and doing the reflex to get that reflex to react. Then all of a sudden the baby latches right onto the mom. So these primitive reflexes are meant for the baby up to the age of usually 5, and they all keep disappearing when the baby's brain starts to develop. Well, if something traumatic or something like, let's say, came into the body like an antibiotic or a vaccination, or something did something and hurt the body, the hemispheres drop. And then that's when the brain becomes underdeveloped and those primitive reflexes never become finished. So what we're doing on these children is a big exam is primitive reflexes. And that's one thing that a lot of doctors have no understanding of and no idea about, is that 1 in 5 adults has primitive reflexes. You were supposed to grow out of that when you were a kid. And it's not just the foot one.
Sure.
I mean, it's ones on the back, it's ones on the neck. It tells you a lot about what's going on in the brain, but there are certain reflexes that correlate to certain things, especially in children. So kids that are bedwetting, these kids by far have primitive reflexes active, 100%. They have to get rid of those reflexes before they start to get rid of the bedwetting. It's going back to the basics now, getting rid of the underdeveloped situations that will eventually lead to the brain becoming developed.
And again, that's all balancing the hemispheres?
It's balancing the hemispheres, but primitive reflexes are not really a hemisphere issue here. Primitive reflexes start before the hemisphere technically, and then, but the primitive reflexes, if they don't go away, then they create a hemispheric issue. Then one of the hemispheres drops, like ADD, ADHD. I think all of the neurological disorders of all the children are all right hemisphere issues. I think the only 2 that are on the left side are Tourette's and dyslexia. So you'll see in these children, like when if there's a hemisphere issue, there's a primitive reflex usually. So you have to go back to the primitive reflex, get rid of that, and then the hemisphere builds back up. Then we build that up.
And you try to accelerate that or help that growth through the laser treatment? Is that what you offer, or is there different ways to fire and wire the brain back to normal?
Definitely laser, but we're doing more exercises now. We're doing eye movements. We're doing smell. We're going back to the basics now, the primitives, the primitive stuff. Exercises to get rid of the primitive reflexes. We have these machines that put you on. They make your body do certain directions, like lateral feet movements. We have them doing these exercises called lizards. It's where you make them touch. So if you touch a kid's back, there's one called the gallant. It's on the spinal reflex. If you stroke a kid's back, these are the kids that are bedwetting. You stroke that kid's back and he kind of does like a cringe, that reflex is still active. That is supposed to be gone. So we run the laser on the cerebellum while we're stroking the reflex. Within a minute, it's gone. And it's really cool because the parents see the difference right out of the gates. It's like we stroke it and it's active. We stroke it, it's active. Same thing with the baby's foot. They could see a positive reflex. We put the laser on the brain, keep stroking it, all of a sudden it's gone. So if you keep repeating this motion, now this is stuff that we tell the parents to do at home. Stroke the baby's foot, stroke the baby's foot, stroke the kid's foot. Start working on it at home to get rid of that reflex. And then when they come in, we soup them up with a laser and it starts to go away. I share a lot of videos of Dr. Malila and what he does on Facebook, and he shows how he'll have a brand new patient with a kid with a positive foot Babinski reflex. 2 weeks later, he does the same post. He did hemispheric rehab, and boom, the reflex is gone. Now that kid's going to be able to get things done and more developed brain. It's going to be back up to par in the class now with all the other students. Usually these kids are falling behind in class. It could be on the math side, and it could be definitely on the reading side. Again, you've got different areas of the brain that are good at different things. So, that's why the boys are typically really good at math and science. That's the left side. And then the women are really good at reading and stuff, comprehension, punctuation, grammar. So that's the whole right side. So, when you get these kids start to level, and then how you could test it is when they take their SAT, if they get a nice equal score on both sides, that means both hemispheres are more balanced. If you see, like me, I think I got like a 700 on my math SAT, but I had like a 340 on my verbal. It was so lopsided, but I was so left brain, hemisphere when I was a kid, that my right hemisphere was deficit the whole time. That's why I had such ADD. So, it kind of, as you keep going down the line and you keep finding these reflexes, you'll understand why that patient came in. It'll explain the whole story as to what they're dealing with. And then you soup up that hemisphere.
So all this garbage they're prescribing to deal with that stuff is just that garbage, right?
Garbage.
Yeah, man.
Garbage.
Such
I have all the evidence, and I show all the parents this. It's all research-driven that number one medication prescribed to children is ADD medicine, and it is proven statistically to not change a single thing. Parents want to do it because the kids are going to school and the kids are hyperactive. I've gotten 4 ADHD kids last year alone when I started playing with these protocols. I got them completely. They were expelled from school. They're all back enrolled, and they're all minding their P's and Q's really well. They all get good reports and they're academically, all their grades are up. So, you're really putting kids back in school. It's not the kid's fault. It's really not. The kid is underdeveloped on one side of the brain. He doesn't know how to pay attention. He doesn't know how to act because his brain is underdeveloped. You do an exam on this kid. He's got primitive reflexes all over the place. You get rid of the primitive reflexes, 6 months you got a different kid.
And I think it probably helps to talk to them a little bit about the nutrition side as well, because if they're eating like 4 syrupy pancakes for breakfast, they're just bouncing off the wall. There's no laser in that down because they're just off.
We play it with, like I say, if they're on medicine and if you take something away, you have to give them something back. We play with a lot of neurotransmitters at our office, and this stuff, it's a cognitive formula. Numedica makes it. It's called cognitive balance.
I've tried it, man.
I
it's
take
awesome
it every
stuff.
day, and I could tell you when I don't take it, I am foggy when I don't, and I feel crystal clear when I do. This stuff makes you really good for playing in games, taking tests. I put all the kids, if they have a right hemisphere issue, on this stuff, and it keeps them all focusing. So this is the nutrition that the kids go to school with. They give to the nurse. I sign a prescription for it.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
So then the kids can take it with their parents early in the day for the first half, and usually when the kids eat lunch, that's when they start to get all riled up, is in the second half of the day after all the sugar intake. So if they take these neurotransmitters and they go to the nurse's station before lunch, they can neutralize their behavior and not be so impulsive on their eating. Then they're going to eat the right food groups. They're not going to be eating as bad. They can get through the second half of the day without misbehaving, basically. and it works well. It works really well.
What's the age you start recommending that? You can start as early as they can swallow a pill?
As early, yeah. Or, a lot of the kids, like, they can't swallow pills. Like, I would say the majority of the patients now coming in are all ADD, ADHD, so they're under the age of 10, most of them. So they can't swallow pills yet, so we have them pop it open, put the formula on, like, an applesauce in the morning or, like, a pudding. Whatever will get it down, and then it neutralizes them the whole morning.
Okay.
Think of it as like a 4 or 5 hour window. So when you go and take it back at lunch again, you got another 4 hour window. They're going to behave.
Now, do you only recommend that for people who have ADHD
Anybody.
or just anybody in
Anybody.
general?
Yeah, I took it for a while. I really liked it.
Yeah.
It was good.
It
I'll
gives
tell
you
you,
that
if
mental
you're-
clarity.
It's just focus, and I felt like it helped with a little bit of anxiety. It just kind of keeps everything level cute, like
They're
not numb or
neurotransmitters.
anything, but it just like everything's firing the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, it's all natural. So your gut is supposed to make these things naturally, but when we eat bad, you're not going to make all these neurotransmitters. So it's like when you put these in your gut, it's like they go to your brain. It's like your brain thinks your gut's making them again, so your brain gets happy. But realistically, you're kind of, what fixes this process in these kids is going over diet. Diet is the big key. These kids are eating too much sugar, and you wonder why your kid's hyperactive. We got to really watch the carbs, watch the sugar, get on more of like a keto-based diet, more at nighttime, limit the carbohydrates. And once you start changing the kid's diet, then the stomach and the gut starts to get back to normal. That's where the microbiome starts to function optimally again. If it's making good things, it's going to make what the brain wants. You got to get that serotonin making again. You got to get B complex into the gut. That's what really helps these neurotransmitters. You got to get probiotics. There's a whole little formula that we put these kids on this regimen, and I mean we get results in literally you'll start to see results in weeks, a couple weeks.
Great.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, it's great stuff.
Natural results too. They're just not zombieing up their kid where they're walking around.
Well, you're not giving also medication to these kids where it's also destroying the microbiome, not trying to neutralize and stabilize the problems, but actually, you're not beating the kid's gut up now by putting drugs into the kid's gut or into the liver. You don't want to have liver toxicity in your child at a young age. That was me. I mean, I was overwhelmed with antibiotics for ear infections. Chiropractic is the master of ear infections. Like, I don't understand why people don't try it.
Yeah, you wrote a whole blog about that. Tell us about that.
I have a blog on that. People don't realize ear infections come from the gut. Again, the microbiome is the answer why ear infections happen. And when you start to get cervical adjustments on the neck, it literally drains the entire neck. All the lymphatic system increases. The immune system gets sharper. And then if you put them on some nutrition to back up the adjustment, you're golden. So ear infections come from the gut. It's an infection in the gut that the body is overwhelmed with, and everything starts to get clogged up into the head. The neck's right there, and that's the way to really get the whole process to drain. So it's more for lymph drainage is the whole adjustment issue.
Cool.
I do ear pulls, ear tugs, which is an ear adjustment. It pops the ear, it drains all the fluid into the maxillary sinus. There's a reason why kids get ear infections so much easier than adults. Again, their structure of the eustachian tube is very flat on a child, and then as the person or the baby starts to grow, the facial bones start to grow, and it starts to kind of corner up the eustachian tube on more of a 45-degree angle. So when you lay back, it's harder for the liquid and fluid to process to the ear. When they're a kid, it just flows right back to it. So if you keep the microbiome healthy and you keep the gut healthy from getting infections, then you're not going to get ear infections. So one of the easy ways that we do it, I would say between 3 to 5 adjustments, we knock ear infections right out of the water. Neck adjustments, cervical adjustments, balancing it, and then putting the baby on some really important nutrition.
And
Again,
even if the ear infection's like where the doctor would say, oh, the eardrum's about to pop, like you can still come in at that point and adjust it up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not too late.
Yeah. It's an inner ear
The
infection.
doctors love to scare you because my kids have had tons of earaches. So they put the little glass in there and they look. They're like, oh my gosh, look how red this is. It's gonna explode. And they make you, Then I text you like, Steve, man, they're making me take this shit, man. What should I do?
A big trick with the ear infections too is I tell them put some oil in the ear. Put like vitamin D3 or vitamin A or. You can even put extra virgin olive oil if it's extra virgin and it's clean oil.
Mm-hmm.
You could put that right in the ear. You can stop a baby from crying within 10 minutes just by putting some oil and squeezing it into the ear. Oils are soothers. They cool things down, So you put it over that eardrum there, it's going to cool it right down. Makes things feel comfortable again.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah, the ear adjustment's more for inner ear infections.
Mm-hmm.
It helps drain everything on the inner side. But There's a lot of little tricks to this, but chiropractic and nutrition is the way to get rid of your infections. I wrote a really cool blog on it.
Yeah,
kind of
it was really
explains,
nice, yeah.
a lot of you tell these moms that their ear infections are coming from these kids' gut, and the mom's like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Trust me, just do this." And I'm like, "You were in here referred from someone that we did the same thing on. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to teach you, educate you about this. That ear infections are literally from the gut." It's
That's
all from the gut.
fascinating, yeah.
It's
Yeah,
all from
everything,
the gut.
right?
And most of the ear infections on the children are from giving the kids milk.
Hmm.
Again, the casein protein, that milk is very, very inflammatory to a baby's gut, especially to anybody's gut. So it creates more immune response. The milk literally makes the baby go into fight or flight in the gut because it has to help get rid of that stuff. Milk is not nourishing to a baby. There's nothing about milk that's nourishing to a baby. And you tell me vitamin D, well, that's added. So then tell me why it's nourishing.
Right.
There's nothing in it. It's not what we're supposed to be drinking. If it's not your mother's milk, then it needs to be like some kind of formulated. Now, there's a couple companies that make colostrum, and Numedica is one of them. Orthomolecular is another one. Some of them are not derived from milk. So you're getting this colostrum-based formula that's derived from serum now. So now you're not getting that casein protein inflaming the gut, and you can get that cow's milk, or not cow's milk, but that colostrum into the gut, those polyrich peptides, and actually fix an infection.
Yeah, so the whole thing about drink milk and have strong bones is such a media stunt, right?
Yeah, it's
such a funny thing.
No, it's a misnomer.
Yeah, for sure.
The dairy industry is really good at what they do. Them and the food and the FDA, they're all in cahoots together.
Yeah,
so,
they got that patted down. Yeah.
You watch videos on YouTube about milk. I don't think
I've been going down that whole rabbit hole of nutrition and meat and dairy and oh man, you can keep going forever for sure.
There's a lot of dangerous stuff. It's just being aware. Again, being aware. If the number one thing we tell the moms is no milk when we have ear infections come in. No milk. And they look at me and they go, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah, if you continue to give your baby milk, I can't get rid of the ear infection." And when I say that, I'm like, "You got to be on board with this." And if the ear infection goes away, it's like, "Okay, no more milk now. We're done with milk." Do you get what I'm saying? It got rid of it, so now it's proved that it did stay away now.
Yeah.
No milk. Almond milk, rice milk, cashew milk, coconut milk, oat milk, anything other than soy and cow's milk. So that's the number one big thing. No milk. No milk.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough for me too because my daughter's still on milk, on regular grass fed. Organic as best as I can get over the shelf. But it's interesting because I thought about this for my first child. We had talked about this, and we did formula, and we did milk, and we tried almond milk. We did the whole thing. But yeah, it's definitely something you have to read into and educate yourself.
I mean, we were all raised on it.
Yeah.
Good
old chocolate milk.
It's very habitual.
Yeah, for sure.
But with this generation understanding now, and this is why we talk about leaky gut and why we're talking about these things.
Yeah.
It's going to get better. And our younger generation is starting to understand this now. Because
there's more information available.
People are so much more addicted to the gym these days, into CrossFits, into doing marathons, and doing so much more activity nowadays. The younger generation starting to understand this, and if they know how to keep themselves healthy, and they know that milk is something you don't want to take, it's just something simple like that. Is stay away from it. You're going to be healthier.
Yeah.
It's an overall perspective of seeing what's going to be about. So it's just understanding, being aware. It's the biggest thing.
Cool. Well, the last topic I want to go over is the other service you offer in your office is how do you say it, the thermography business?
Thermography.
Thermography. Tell us a little bit about that tongue twister.
So there was a woman in town that had a thermography business in Stuart for about 19 years. She owned it. She owned an acupuncture business. She was a great healer and started this business by word of mouth and understanding that real prevention lies in thermography, not in mammograms. And that's where we need to kind of understand and get these women to understand this. Not just women, but, we need to get them to understand that it takes 10 years to develop breast cancer. Your first mammogram is at 40 years old. So if it takes 10 years, why are you doing this at 40? It's kind of like a little bit of maybe you're not taking that full prevention process if you really think about it. Really, women are all diagnosed in their early 40s with it, so if it took 10 years, shouldn't they be screened when they're younger?
Yeah.
So it's just understanding the whole screening process and how to be more preventatory toward this. I tell all of my friends, I mean, I'm 34 now. All of my friends are at this age now where things are going to start to happen now. So you have to, if you want to do the real prevention, get a thermography scan. And when you do this, it'll show where the heat is in the breast and what kind of problem it may be. So the doctors, I send a report off, I send the scans. They give me a report back, and it tells me what their doctors think it is, and on a level of severity, or if it's a level of moderate, or if it's a low level of concern. If it's a high level of concern, there's a breast specialist in town. It's like, here you go. We picked up another high risk. Can you check them out, kind of thing. They'll get like an ultrasound done to see what it is, whether it being like a lump or something. But understanding the prevention, I mean, we're saving so many women and saving their lives on the prevention process that maybe they're a moderate level of something's going on right now. We can teach them ways to get that lower and get another thermography scan in the next year and then show them that this actually worked. There are ways to, like, dry brushing. Women are not even aware of what dry brushing is. Dry brushing is something that you can do to open up the vascular, circulation of all the lymph system in the body. Just doing dry brushing for women alone is really healthy. Again, we do the laser therapy when we have inflammatory conditions going on. So in this thermography scans, I'd say our number one or our top few reasons for people doing it are for carotid artery issues. If stroke runs in your family, we can run a scan on your neck and show you how hot your carotid artery really is. And it tells you, like, maybe you need to be on some more anti-inflammatory stuff, fish oils, curcumin, more naturally anti-inflammatory things that will help this situation. So it kind of routes us as to what nutritionally to put you on to help you, because there's a lot of reasons as to what's going on there. Women do it for their breast. You can do it for your gut. You can do it for your kidneys. You could do a full body scan, which literally checks everything. Some people do it on their legs for circulation issues, like for thrombolysis, any kind of clots, stuff like that.
And the benefit of the scan is it's not doing any kind of damage. Like if you were going to go get any type of scan of radiation or anything like
no
that's
radiation.
One of the.
It's just a camera that measures and tracks thermography. There was a big story about a month ago or about 2 months ago out in England where a woman had a thermography camera and she was taking a picture of something at night at like a theme park, and she picked up this woman's breast that was like very hot, very inflamed. So she told her, like, hey, you should see this, I think you should go see your doctor. And she was diagnosed with breast cancer that next day.
Trip, yeah.
So, I mean, these things are very accurate with prevention. It's being aware and understanding that mammograms are very dangerous, and 30% of the time they're going to give you a false positive, which they run you through the ringer. Think about what it does to your brain. Again, it's going to make you stressed. You tell a woman that you might have breast cancer, and then all of a sudden it came back that it was false. It's like, it's not very accurate, So this is accurate, like for example, my mom had a breast scan done. She's never had one before. Her breast came back completely fine. And I said, I really believe that you can throw the thought of breast cancer out the window now, because I know it runs in her family, and she was concerned. But if you're 60 years old and you don't show a sign of inflammation in your breast, that's a really good sign.
Sure, yeah.
So you can just take that thought process out of your mind. Like, don't worry about it. We'll scan you. We'll check you. Remember, if cancer was going to be there, it would be hot.
Yeah.
Cancer is inflammation. That's the first sign of cancer. So if we pick up no inflammation, we're in good shape.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that they would replace mammograms, because, I mean, legally I can't say that.
Sure.
But I could say that if you really wanted to be a prevention, if you want to take a real accurate prevention, I recommend getting a thermoscan. It's really healthy for you. Goes for guys, goes for women. Men are more carotid artery type of situations, and women are more breast. So there's a reason to do it for just about everybody. It'll pick up your gut too.
Yeah.
It'll tell you if your microbiome's hot. You could see.
Have you done
literally. I haven't done a thermoscan yet.
No, okay.
No, but I should. But I did a poop test, so I kind of know what's going on.
You're getting there. You're getting there.
I know what's going on there. But it kind of just gives you another tool.
Yeah,
it's another tool to help you. And for women, I recommend that they do this in their 30s, not their 40s.
Yeah.
Don't wait till you're 40 to get your first breast scan done. Do it in your 30s. Start to track what's going on. And there's even nutritional recommendations, which is really cool, from the doctors that read the thermography and send me the report back. They even recommend certain nutritions that help with these situations.
Very cool.
Specific. Vitamin D3. It's it's on everyone's. They recommend it to every woman.
Yeah.
Because if you keep your immune system high, you're not going to track inflammation.
Right.
Again, maybe it's coming from the gut that's leading other processes to be inflamed. Again, microbiome, right?
Microbiome. It's the
right
key to
back
everything,
it.
man.
It is. It's a big trick.
That's awesome.
So yeah, we do that out of Stuart, Florida. We do it right out of my office at Complete Care, right in downtown. So we're one place in Stuart that does it. I think the next camera is in Jupiter, but I don't think anybody's going to have the quality camera that we have. We have one of the originals, which is like more detailed. You can see everything as fine as a hair on the skin. I mean, it's very, very accurate. So,
cool.
Yeah, we'll be fully loaded by the 1st with our website and everything. And we see locally, we see over 1,000 women a year that understand that this is the real prevention. And I mean, most of these women, they know that if they keep getting these scans when they're supposed to do it, they know they're healthy.
Sure.
Most of them choose to go that route. So,
like you said, if you catch it and you do it, you have no inflammation and you stay with it, then you can catch it.
And if you're at like a low or moderate level of concern, that's where we can run laser on you and really get rid of the inflammation. We can track it early and treat it early. So we have lots of tracking and treatment processes, that is not just chiropractic based, but it's more just, again, it's all a whole thing. It's the whole pie. It's understanding all the variables as to be healthy. And it doesn't really matter what it pertains to, Understand the gut, get the body healthy, and you're in good shape.
That's awesome.
Keep the brain strong,
Yeah.
So
Definitely. Well, I think we covered about everything. I would highly recommend everyone go check out Dr. Steve Zanfini's Facebook page along with his Instagram page. And where can they find the blog? Because I noticed that wasn't attached to the site. Where's the blog at? That's Meet Dr. Steve?
We have a business page. It's Dr. Steven Zanfini.
Okay.
If you go on there, all the blogs are on there.
It is on there, okay.
Yeah, there's about 8 blogs on there.
Yeah, go check that out.
Wrote some cool stuff.
And we definitely just scratched the surface on testimonials, because if you go on, and I remember reading about the one old lady that got onto that light show machine. She couldn't stand for years. I mean, we really just scratched the surface on testimonials that people will vouch for Steve on everything ranging from nutrition to hip problems to standing up to just getting through daily life. I highly recommend going to check out Dr. Steve Zanfini and give him a call and schedule your next appointment. And I just want to thank you, Steve, for coming in and sharing with us.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
really interesting.
Yeah, man, it's super fun, and we'll definitely do it again because we are constantly learning, and I'm going to keep this podcast rocking and rolling so we can share some information and help some people out. Appreciate it, Steve. Everyone, this podcast will go live probably later this afternoon. Go give us a follow at Elevated Lifestyle Lab and go listen at any of your iTunes, iHeart, or Pandora. And see you guys soon. Thank you.